migrants or foreigners are not the reason for crime in your country. African migrants are not the reason for crimes in your country. Here is why I'm saying that. I want to show you.
In today's video, we're diving into a topic that's often sensationalized and misunderstood: the perception of crime among African immigrants. Stay tuned, because we're about to challenge stereotypes, explore data, and uncover hidden truths.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a crazy one, so do not go anywhere. Stay tuned, and if you like the video, please go ahead, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Immigrants are criminals. Immigrant crime is on the rise. I mean, there have been a lot of this rhetoric on the internet, and I want to say something about it. But the only reason I'm saying this something is because Africans are amongst these immigrants we're talking about.
Most of the migrants are from sub-Saharan African countries. I've met people from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, the Gambia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Cameroon. They're mostly young men, but there are some women and children too.
Since 1990, the number of African migrants living outside of the region has more than doubled, with the growth in Europe most pronounced. In 2020, most African-born migrants living outside the region were residing in Europe, 11 million, in Asia, nearly 5 million, and in Northern America, around 3 million. This is all according to the World Migration Report by the UN.
So one thing when looking at immigration and crime, we have to, or it is essential to approach migration and crime with nuance and a critical eye.
Because immigration and its relationship to crime is a complex issue, often colored by political narratives and public perception, as anti-immigration politicians always try to link immigrants to crime. Politicians sometimes frame migrants as threats to national identity, security, and economic stability. This dehumanization creates an environment of fear and hostility for everyone. But as you would know it, research consistently refutes this myth.
All those things that you're talking about on Facebook and Twitter are all dog shit. Come along, let's look at the available data regarding immigration and crime in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and in South Africa.
Debunking the myth of immigrants are criminals. Let's start with the United States. Contrary to popular belief, research consistently shows that African immigrants are not disproportionately involved in criminal activities. In fact, they often have lower crime rates than native-born populations. The claim that immigrants, especially undocumented ones, cause spikes in crime lacks factual support. While individual incidents of crime by undocumented immigrants may receive significant media attention, it is always advisable to dig deeper than what the media shows us, especially American media.
Obviously, there is a problem, and this is it.
In the past couple of years, the African immigrant population in the U.S. has steadily grown. Between 2000 and 2019, the Black African immigrant population increased by 246%, reaching 2 million. Africans now constitute 42% of the country's foreign-born Black population.
Overall, 4.6 million Black immigrants live in the U.S.,
accounting for 19% of the growth in the overall Black population since 1980.
But are these people committing crimes? Let's look at the facts.
1. Research does not support the view that immigrants commit crime or are incarcerated at higher rates than native-born Americans. In fact, immigrants might have less law enforcement contact compared to non-immigrants. Here are some potential factors contributing to this perception. A. Selection bias. Immigrants often undergo rigorous screening processes before entering a country, which can exclude individuals with criminal records. B. Fear of deportation. Undocumented immigrants may be less likely to resort to crimes due to fear of deportation. 2. Numerous studies consistently show that immigration is not linked to higher levels of crime. Quite the opposite. Immigrants often contribute to neighborhood safety by increasing social connections and economic opportunities. A. Social connections. Immigrants often form strong social bonds within their communities, which can help to deter crime. These social networks provide support, encouragement, and a sense of belonging, making it less likely for individuals to engage in criminal behavior. B. Economic opportunities. Immigrants often bring new skills and entrepreneurial spirit to their communities, creating jobs and economic opportunities. These economic benefits can help to reduce crime by providing people with legitimate means of earning a living. C. Diversity and tolerance. Immigrant communities can foster greater diversity and tolerance, which can help to create a more inclusive and peaceful society. This can reduce the likelihood of conflicts and violence that may be associated with intolerance and discrimination.
3.
Even when specifically examining undocumented immigrants, the conclusions remain similar. Studies find that undocumented immigration does not increase violent crime. Sanctuary cities, often criticized, show no visible difference in crime rates compared to non-sanctuary cities. In Texas, undocumented immigrants were 47% less likely to be convicted of a crime in 2017 than native-born Americans.
4.
Overall, immigrants have a similar or even lower likelihood of incarceration compared to native-born Americans. For instance, one study found that undocumented immigrants are 33% less likely to be incarcerated than U.S.-born individuals. Recent census data spanning 150 years reveals that immigrants are actually less likely to be incarcerated than their U.S.-born counterparts, with the gap widening in recent years. These findings challenge the notion that immigrants are disproportionately involved in criminal activities. Immigration and crime in the United Kingdom. The relationship between immigration and crime in the UK is complex, with no simple answer. While some studies have found a correlation between immigration and certain types of crime, others have found no significant relationship.
The Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford has extensively studied this topic. Their research indicates that immigrants, anyone born outside the UK, are less likely to commit serious crimes or be incarcerated than native-born citizens.
Moreover, high rates of immigration are associated with lower rates of violent crime and property crime. Property crimes are legal acts that involve a theft or destruction of property without physically harming or threatening the victim. This category includes common offenses like burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, arson, and vandalism. The primary motivation behind these crimes is often financial gain, with items such as cash, electronics, and jewelry being common targets. These offenses can have a significant impact on individuals and communities, as they can lead to financial losses, emotional distress, and a sense of insecurity. Property crimes are frequently reported, highlighting their prevalence and the challenges they pose to law enforcement agencies. Interestingly, despite an increase in foreign-born residents in England and Wales, there's no evidence to suggest that immigration has contributed to higher rates of property or violent crime. This finding contradicts the common misconception that increased migration leads to increased crime. It's important to note that this data is based on rigorous analysis and research, which has helped to dispel unfounded fears about the relationship between immigration and crime. Immigration and crime in South Africa.
So the topic of immigrant crime in South Africa is different. It is different, but still, it is a very, very essential topic to address.
The statement that immigrants are criminals and immigrant crime is generally on the rise is false. Unfortunately, comprehensive and up-to-date statistics specifically on immigrant crime in South Africa are scarce. However, here are some general observations. 1. General crime rates. According to a report by the Human Sciences Research Council, HSRC, immigrants are less likely to commit crimes compared to South African citizens. The data shows no statistical relationship between international migration and crime rates in South Africa. This HSRC's findings that immigrants are less likely to commit crimes compared to South Africa citizens could be attributed to several factors. A. Self-selection. Economic motivation. Many immigrants come to South Africa seeking economic opportunities and better living conditions. This strong economic motivation can deter them from engaging in criminal activities that could jeopardize their goals. Educational background also play a role. Immigrants often have higher educational qualifications or different skill sets compared to the local population. These qualifications can provide them with legitimate avenues for employment and social mobility, reducing the likelihood of resorting to crime.
This is particularly true because most times, especially people from West Africa, when they are traveling, doesn't matter to the UK, to America, or to South Africa, or wherever they're traveling to, one of the most important things that they usually try to do is to learn a skill that is going to sustain you for the main time while you're there. And usually they do plaiting hair, like females' hair, cutting hair, being a barber, or doing nails. These are the three most important skills that most immigrants learn in West Africa before they move. Because we know when we live in the idea is not to go and commit crime.
B.
Social integration and networks. Strong social ties. Immigrants may form strong social networks within their communities, providing support, guidance, and deterrence from criminal behavior. Moreover, the cultural norms and values of immigrants' countries of origin might emphasize honesty, hard work, and respect for the law, which can contribute to lower crime rates. C. Legal status and employment opportunities. Legal constraints. Immigrants with legal status may be more likely to abide by the law due to the potential consequences of violating immigration regulations. However, undocumented immigrants may face limited job opportunities, forcing them into informal or underground economies. But this doesn't necessarily correlate with higher crime rates. 2. Perception versus reality.
Despite the data, a significant portion of the South African population believe that immigrants increase crime.
This perception is often fueled by misinformation and xenophobic sentiments. The discrepancy between the data and public perception is a common issue in many societies. Misinformation and xenophobic sentiments can significantly influence public opinion, even when factual evidence contradicts these beliefs. A. Media sensationalism. Media outlets may sensationalize stories involving immigrants and crime, often exaggerating or distorting the facts to attract viewers or readers. This can contribute to a distorted view of reality. B. Political exploitation. Politicians may exploit fears about immigration for political gain, often making unfounded claims about crime rates to rally support. This can reinforce negative stereotypes and prejudice. C. Personal experiences. Individual experiences with crime, even if unrelated to immigration, can reinforce existing biases. People may be more likely to remember and share stories that confirm their pre-existing beliefs. 3. Conviction rates. Data from Africa Check indicates that undocumented immigrants made up just over 2% of all people convicted of crimes in South Africa over a 5-year period. This suggests that the contribution of undocumented immigrants to overall crime is minimal. The term undocumented refers to those without permission to be in the country, but some people become undocumented due to changes in the law or asylum refusals. Statistics South Africa estimated around 3.95 million immigrants in 2021, 6.6% of the population. 4. Violent crimes. In 2017, the Gauteng Provincial Commissioner claimed that about 60% of suspects arrested for violent crimes in the province were illegal immigrants. However, this statement was not backed by publicly released data and may have contributed to xenophobic attitudes. The police in South Africa do not publicly release data on the nationalities of those they arrest. This lack of transparency makes it difficult to assess the actual contribution of undocumented foreign nationals to serious violent crimes like murder and aggravated robbery.
So the focus on arresting undocumented foreign nationals may not be the solution to addressing these crimes,
as many arrests are often related to immigration status rather than involvement in violent offenses. 5. Economic impact. A study by the HSRC found that many immigrants, particularly those from neighboring countries, start their own businesses. These businesses often create jobs for South Africans, contributing to economic growth and development. For instance, in many townships, Immigrant-owned spaza shops provide employment opportunities for local residents by buying wholesale products from South African suppliers.
And what I mean by that is most of these small shops owned by foreign nationals, they buy their products like they buy wholesale from South African companies like Cool Beans, Tastic, Jungle Oats, Albany Bread. You know what else? You know all these brands, all these things, all these companies. They also sell them in those small shops, so they provide employment for those companies because those companies need a lot of money, and when they get a lot of money, they also employ a lot of people still.
Other businesses may require skilled South African workers to support their operations. These statistics highlight the disparity between public perception and actual data regarding immigrant crime rates in South Africa. Conclusion.
So, what have we learned? Numbers do not lie, and the people that are to be held accountable are the politicians, are the people on social media that are pushing all this agenda of immigrants commit crimes, or immigrants commit high levels of crime and stuff like that. It's not true, and stats do show that. As we have seen, the data from countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and South Africa shows that generally immigrants are less likely to commit crimes, violent crimes in all of these countries. And the perception that immigrants are responsible for rising crime rates, there are no evidence. I'm sorry, but there are no evidence, all right? There are no evidence.
But then again, how do we know they are not committing crimes if they are not in the system?